Hey there, listeners! Welcome back to Tell by Bell, the podcast where we tell stories and share perspectives. This season, we're diving into poetry again, specifically the ones from the SPM, English Literature Syllabus, or Code 2206. We'll read them, break them down, and maybe even have a few aha moments together. So, if you love poetry, or even if you're just trying to survive the exam, you're in the right place. Settle in, stay curious, and let's make poetry feel a little less like homework and a lot more like a conversation. Earlier this season, we wandered through Wordsworth's Daffodils, embraced Keats' Mellow Autumn, and found comfort in Dorothy Wordsworth's Winter Reflections. Each of those poems captured a fleeting moment. The daffodils dancing in the breeze, autumn's final warmth before winter. And now, Fanthorpe invites us into another brief but powerful snapshot of life. Today, we're stepping into a moment many of us can relate to, through the poem Half Term by Ursula Askham Fanthorpe. Now, if you're not familiar with Fanthorpe, let me introduce her. Fanthorpe was a brilliant English poet known for her sharp observations of ordinary life. Before becoming a poet, she worked as a teacher and later as a hospital receptionist. These roles have given her unique insight into the everyday human experience. Her poetry often shines a light on moments most people overlook, making the ordinary feel extraordinary. Without further ado, let's hear Half Term. Always autumn in my memory, butter ringing the drilled tea-shop crumpets, handmade chocolates, rich enough to choke you, brought in special smoothed paper from town. Back at school, the square tall piles of bread, featureless red jam in basins. Grace, a shuffle of chairs, the separate table for the visiting lacrosse team. Long awkward afternoons in hotel lounges, islanded in swollen armchairs, eyeing aristocratic horses in irrelevant magazines. Should I be talking to them? Back at school, the rapidly selfish snatch at self, the clashing, determined duets in co-practicing room, the passionate solitary knitting. Inadequacies of presentation, perceived by parents' temporary friends. Hair, manners, clothes have failed to adjust. I don't know the rules of snooker. Back at school, the stiff, reliable awkwardness of work, history tests. On Monday morning, deponent verbs. I have never been good at maths. Saying goodbye, there are tears and hugs, relief, regret. They, like me, return to a patterned life, whose rules are easy, unworthily. I shall miss chocolate, crumpets, comfort, but not the love I only, sense as they go, waving to the end, vague in the street lamps of November. Back at school, the bullies, tyrants, and lunatics are waiting. I can deal with them. Let's break it down. One of the first things you'll notice is Fanthorpe's use of understatement. There's no dramatic reunion, no flood of emotion, just a quiet awkwardness of two people who love each other but have grown slightly apart. It's subtle but powerful. Her word choice is equally striking. Words like separate and awkwardness highlight this emotional gap. The structure mirrors this too, with short lines, pauses, and fragmented rhythm, reflecting the halting nature of strained conversations. Each line feels isolated, much like the characters themselves. Fanthorpe doesn't bombard us with elaborate descriptions. Instead, she uses sparse, almost clinical details like snapshots of a moment. This simplicity makes the poem so relatable. Who hasn't felt that slight discomfort when reconnecting with someone after time apart? Even the lack of elaborate metaphors reinforces the poem's quiet tension. Tone plays a very crucial role here. The mood is restrained, almost melancholic. We can sense that there's affection, but it's muted by the reality of time passing and lines moving in different directions. The reader is then left with a sense of longing, not just for what is, but for what once was. But here's the thing. This poem isn't just about one half-term break. It's about life's little separations, moving out, changing schools, even just growing up. It reminds us how easy it is for connection to slip into distance if we're not careful. Fanthorpe captures that bittersweet truth. Love doesn't always come with grand gestures. Sometimes it's found in the effort to bridge the silence. In a way, it is like Wordsworth's Daffodils, a single moment that lingers long after it's past, or Keats' To Autumn, where beauty is celebrated even as the season fades. Half-Term does the same, reminding us that life is built from these quiet moments of transition. Now, Half-Term also explores two distinct periods of life, the speaker's school days and adulthood. Fanthorpe draws parallels between the two, using memory and repetition to show how the past echoes into the present. The phrase "back at school" and the use of brackets create this flashback effect, blurring the line between past and present. The contrasts are stark. Stanzas 1 and 2 juxtapose the present's comforts. Tea shop crumpets and handmade chocolates rich enough to choke you, with the speaker's bleaker school life, plain bread and featureless red jam in basins. The vibrant indulgence of adulthood stands against this drabness of childhood, suggesting school life was marked by loneliness and deprivation. But adulthood hasn't entirely escaped that kind of isolation. In stanza 3, the speaker's question, "Should I be talking to them?" emphasizes alienation. The capitalized "them" suggests others as almost otherworldly, as if belonging to a totally different class or social sphere. Stanza 4 reinforces this with words like cold, snatch itself, and solitary. Yet adulthood isn't truly without connection. The speaker acknowledges friendships but focuses more on their impermanence. Stanza 7 highlights the transience of adult relationships, underscoring life's bittersweet nature. Even freedom, often idealized in adulthood, feels constrained, a patterned life that offers little escape. However, the poem doesn't end in despair. The speaker finds solace in one constant, which is love. Unlike fleeting pleasures, love endures, staying by their side even until the harsh month of November. And in the final lines, reflecting on school's bullies, tyrants, and lunatics, the speaker concludes, I can deal with them. This quiet resilience contrasts sharply with the earlier vulnerability, showing growth and self-confidence carried into adulthood. So what's the main takeaway? Half-term isn't just a nostalgic reflection. It's a reminder to bridge the gaps that time and distance create, whether through a call, a text, or simply sitting beside someone in silence. Those small acts sustain connection. Like Wordsworth's Daffodils or Keats' To Autumn, Fanthorpe's Half-Term lingers as a gentle reminder to cherish life's quiet transitions and face its challenges with quiet strength. That's it for today's poetic journey. If you enjoyed this, be sure to tune in next time as we tackle another poem from the SBM English literature. Until then, keep reading, keep noticing, and feel free to call up someone you haven't spoken to for a while and just catch up. See you next time on Teba Bell. I'm your host, Bella Wee.